I am declaring this game a must-win game for the Broncos. I didn't think I'd have to pull this card after just one game in, but you cannot fall 0-2 and want to go anywhere in the NFL. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I've got some numbers to back it up. But most importantly, it's tough to come out of an 0-2 hole, but you really can't fall down 0-2 after the first two games coming at home in September, where you're supposed to have an advantage with the elevation and whatnot. And you really can't fall down 0-2 at home against two teams that finished below 500 last year. Those are supposed to be the winnable games, right? If you want to start getting back on track. So that is why this is a must-win game. Now, I did say that if you want to survive, you cannot go down 0-2. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but the numbers are not on your side. I actually pulled together the stats here, and since the NFL expanded to a 14-team playoff, only one of 23 teams since 2020 that started off 0-2 made the playoffs. The Cincinnati Bengals last year were 0-2, and they got all the way to the AFC Championship game. Suffice to say that the Broncos are not as talented as the Cincinnati Bengals, so it would be much more difficult for them to come out of an 0-2 hole, which is why this truly is a must-win game. If Denver has any real aspirations to go to the playoffs, they got to win this Sunday against the Commanders at home. So if you agree, let me know down in the comment section. If you disagree, that's perfectly fine. But do you guys believe that Sunday is a must-win game for the Denver Broncos? Chime in for me down below. Now, I do want to get to the injury report before we get to some keys to victory for the Broncos. Starting with this, Jerry Jeudy was limited with a hamstring injury. Greg Dulcich did not practice with a hamstring injury. DJ Jones was limited with a knee injury. Frank Clark with the hip. He was not spotted at practice today, working on the side a little bit, maybe with a hip injury. He was limited. And then Riley Moss, the rookie corner who is working his way back from a sports hernia surgery, he was limited as well. But the biggest name of the bunch, in my opinion, is, of course, Jerry Jeudy, who Denver sorely missed on week one because they never got any big explosive plays. Like, you get some good plays to Brandon Johnson right at the start of the game, and then you never got a big game out of the receiving department, right? Philip Dorsett nearly had a huge play if he did not step out of bounds, but Jerry Jeudy is looking like he should be ready to go on Sunday. Maybe by the time you're watching this, they have already declared him active and ready to go, but he was very close to playing in week one. Ultimately, he did a workout on the field before kickoff, and Denver decided to err on the side of caution. But they definitely need Jerry Jeudy back because, no offense, when Samaje Perine and Adam Trotman are your two leading receivers, that's a problem, right? That's not what you are shooting for when you've got Jerry Jeudy, a first-round pick, Courtland Sutton, a guy you're paying a lot of money to finish as wide receiver 3. I mean, Courtland Sutton, this is not a slant against him. He had a good game altogether. He scored a touchdown. But you just need more production from your receiving department, and that's where Jerry Jeudy comes in. The last guy not named Jerry Jeudy to go over 100 yards would be Courtland Sutton, week 2 of last season. You just need the big plays from the receiving room, and you have that with Jerry Jeudy. As for the Commanders' injury report, Terry McLaurin, he was a full participant. He suffered a toe injury back in the preseason. He played in week 1. He should be good to go. Curtis Samuel was limited with a hip injury. He was very explosive for them in their win last Sunday against the Cardinals. Their starting left guard, Sam Cosmi, he was with a full participant with a shoulder injury. Chase Young, who missed week 1 with the neck injury, was limited. But it sounds like he's getting closer and closer to playing. But some folks in Washington think he might not play until week 3. That would be a bit of a break for Denver. And then Jatavius Martin, their rookie corner from Illinois, he is dealing with a concussion. But when you look at the Commanders' defensive line, this is their bread and butter, right? This is what gets them into the win column more often than not. And they are currently a little bit shorthanded, and they have been for quite some time, as Chase Young has not been the same since his dominant rookie season. But even without Chase Young, they've got Jonathan Allen, they've got Daron Payne, they've got Montez Sweat, they've got a lot of good pieces in Washington. So they'd love to have Chase Young back, but even without him, they can still get to the quarterback. Now let's run through my 5 keys to victory for Denver, starting with, speaking of getting to the quarterback, an improved pass rush. I'm calling out Randy Gregory here. I'm calling out Jonathan Cooper. I'm calling out the entire crew because your job is to get to the quarterback. They did not do that in week 1. Now, you can put that on Jimmy Garoppolo getting the ball out of his hands very quick. Only 6 possessions, so everyone had really long drives, which means it was just kind of a weird game as everyone has called it since then. But Randy Gregory, Frank Clark, Zach Allen, he got a lot of money in free agency. Listen, you don't have to get up 3 to 4 sacks in your first game to be a good player and have a good contract, but we do need a little bit more pressure and production from this front four altogether. Now, the good news is they are going up against a Washington offensive line that surrendered 6 sacks last week to the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I know what you're all thinking. The Arizona Cardinals have a top 5 defensive line in football, Petey. No shit they did. No, they don't. Look at the guys who got the sacks done in Arizona last week. Show of hands, who has heard of any of these players? When I saw this list, I kind of thought I was getting tested here. Like, is this a prank, right? Is there a bunch of hidden cameras about to pop out going, you don't know ball, Petey, none of these names are real, you fell for it. Just a bunch of UDFAs and day 3 draft picks getting after the quarterback. So if these guys can put up 6 sacks, Randy Gregory and company, you better get to the quarterback as well. No offense to UDFAs, I mean, Denver's got a great history of them, but if a bunch of UDFAs and 4th and 5th and 6th rounders are leading the charge, then players getting $70 million in free agency should do 2x what Washington did. So Randy Gregory, Frank Clark, Jonathan Cooper. It's a lot of really good, talented edge rushers. The taking is yours. Go get the quarterback. Go get Sam Howell. Now, we are going to have a watch party, so if you're going to be there, type me down below in the comment section. I just want to get enough food and drink for everyone, so I just want to get a quick head count, good show of hands of anyone that's going to be tuning into our watch party. So type me down below. We get things started either at kickoff or just leading up to kickoff. So type me down below if you will be at our watch party. Now let's talk about the next element here, right? And that is explosive plays. Because the Broncos in week 1, they did not have a whole lot of explosive plays. In fact, their longest pass was 21 yards. Their longest rush was just 12 yards. So explosive plays is a big key to victory for Denver here. And Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine are 2 prime candidates to try and help out the explosive plays with some big runs for the offense. So Williams in week 1, 52 yards off of 13 carries. Samaje Perine, 8 carries, 41 yards. And overall, Denver just put together some really good numbers on the ground. Now, speaking of really good numbers, you can find some awesome deals thanks to our sponsor today, Game Time. Listen, buying tickets to see your favorite event should not be stressful. And with Game Time, they remove all that stress for you. So if you want to go catch a Broncos game this season, if you want to see Sean Payton stalking up and down the sideline, he's not even going to curse under his breath, actually. He's just going to put it out there in the open. If you want to watch Russell Wilson in this offense, well, hopefully this offense continues to improve. But if you want to watch the Broncos altogether, then make sure you use Game Time. And if you don't want to watch the Broncos, well, there's lots of other great sporting events, concerts, comedy, theater, all that good stuff on the Game Time app. So download Game Time today. When you download the Game Time app and redeem the code Broncos Chat, they're going to give you guys $20 off your first purchase. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Plus, you can get flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Broncos Chat for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but use that code Broncos Chat for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Moving on to the rest of our keys to victory here. Like we just talked about, getting those explosive plays. And now our next one, Damarri Mathis, we need a bounce-back game. It's only year 2 for the 4th-round pick out of Pitt, so it's not like we should have crazy high expectations anyway, but he has to be better because I could have done this job, and I am severely overweight. He is not. 9 targets, 8 receptions, 95 yards allowed, 2 touchdowns allowed. Just unacceptable numbers for the DB right here. So Damarri Mathis, he needs to be better. This defensive back room, well, that's actually a false statement because Pat Surtain does everything you could ever ask for. But we need to see better stuff here. especially when you talk about his overall PFF grades, right? Overall grade of 27.8, run defense 53.5, coverage 27.4, had one penalty. Damarri Mathis, this is a kick in the derriere. We need to see a big improvement going into week 2 for the second-year guy out of Pitt. So big bounce-back game hopefully on the horizon for him because Washington's got a lot of good wide receivers, right? Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. They've got a deep wide receiver room. And so Damarri Mathis is not going to have an easy Sunday by any stretch. It's going to be a full workload for him. So definitely keep an eye on that. Moving on to my next key to victory for Denver. Can we get a rookie sighting? Can we see a rookie, please? Because we didn't really see a whole lot of them in week 1. And I don't say this as just put rookies on the field for the sake of putting rookies on the field. But let's get a rookie to make a play here, right? Marvin Mims had 17 offensive snaps, did some nice things in the return game. Special teams coordinator Ben Kotwika, speaking to the media today, said that they almost felt like he broke a run off. Jaleel McLaughlin, just 5 snaps on offense. Drew Sanders, no snaps on defense. We'll talk more about that in a moment. 12 special team sats. Riley Moss, inactive. J.L. Skinner, inactive, but unfortunately with Caden Stearns on IR, my suspicion is J.L. Skinner will not be inactive this Sunday. But Marvin Mims, we talked about this wide receiver room looking for an explosive play. That's you, dude. This is not me calling out Marvin Mims, meaning he did not do a good job in week 1 or something like that. But altogether, you are the explosive play. You're the guy who averaged over 20 yards of reception in college football last year. This is an opportunity for you to excel, right? I mean, this is some free life advice. If you ever want to do a good job at your place of work, do something that your company needs so well that they could never move on from you. Denver needs an explosive play guy. Marvin Mims, this is your opportunity to get your foot in the door and really emerge as a go-to player on this offense. Now, as for Drew Sanders, Sean Payton spoke about him to the media. Here's what he said. He's got the trust of the coaches. Part of it is just finding the packages and snaps to play. Both Josie and Alex played well. We'll constantly look at our personnel and see ways where we could help us not only in the kicking game, but also on offense and defense. It's not a trust issue. My 5th and final key to victory is the offensive line settles in. The O-line was pretty shaky in the preseason and during training camp and whatnot. And so now we need to see the offensive line that got a lot of investment made into it during the offseason really start to settle down and find their rhythm and start to put together a good performance for Russell Wilson because Russ was tied for the most amount of sacks last season. Now, when you look at the PFF grades from Denver's front 5, Garrett Bowles, 77.3. That was really good to see. Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey, those are the 2 guys that got the bag in free agency. That honeymoon's going to wear off soon if we don't see an improvement. Now, McGlinchey, unfortunately, missed pretty much all training camp and preseason with a knee injury. So we'll give him some slack because he had a tough assignment week 1 against Max Crosby. But, again, that honeymoon will end soon. Meanwhile, like we talked about earlier, the Commanders' defensive line, it's good, right? If Chase Young is going to play, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, we're talking about 4 former first-round picks. This offensive line will have its hands full, so it is crucial for them to keep Russell Wilson afloat. Now, before we get on out of here, predict the score for me. Broncos versus Commanders. Give me your best score prediction down below in the comment section. For me, I'm going to take Denver, and I know I'm just trying to speak this into existence, but I think the Broncos will not fall to 0-2. So for that reason, I'll take Denver 21-20.